Okay, let's get our ship to start shooting now. Let's create the bullet. We're going to make a capsule out of it. And I want to use this bullet over and over again. And I'm going to use a prefab to do that. I'm going to call it bullet 1. And I'll name all my other bullets just some other number as we get to them. I'm going to drop this capsule that I've just created onto bullet 1. Delete the capsule. I'm going to come down here to this prefab bullet 1, which has the icon of a cube here, and we can see that it is now the default capsule. And I'm going to create a JavaScript to control the bullet. I'm going to drop the script onto the prefab, and we can see that here. And I'm going to go into the ship, and we're going to get it to start firing bullets. So I need to declare some variables up here. First of all, I want to have the bullet speed. And that's going to be a float, and I'm going to need to access it from another script, so I'm going to put the word static here in front so that I can do that. I also want to have the projectile, we'll call it projectile 1. It's going to be a game object, and I want to have some kind of a variable that says how often I can fire, so we'll call that bullet weight. And let me just put it here. And that will be a float as well. Now to start, I want to have the bullet speed defined as some number that's we'll probably have to change it during testing. So I'll just set it to probably 15 here. That's going to be 15 meters per second. So it'll take, our whole screen vertically is about 20 meters. So it should take a little over 1 second for that. It's about the speed we want, but definitely we'll want to test it. Okay, so the projectile 1 here, I'm going to go back to Unity, and we'll see that the ship now has the projectile 1 variable here. We need to drop a game object, which is bullet 1. So that's going to be our ammunition. Okay, so we also want to set a variable next fire. I need to declare it also. That will be a float. This is going to say well, I'll show you in just a moment how we're going to use that. Okay, so we need to declare bullet speed, next fire, and then the bullet weight. This is going to be how fast we can repeat shooting if we hold down the fire button. So, well, again, we'll test this and change it. I'll just set it to 0.4 seconds right now. Okay, so remember, in our update function for the ship, we have these lines of code here. They control the ship's movement by the mouse. So after the ship moves, we could do this before or after, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to include some code here that will fire. So we do this with an if statement and an input .get button. And pre-programmed is this fire 1 in double quotes, as well as many other buttons. We're going to use fire 1, which we can use the mouse button to do. So every frame, every update, it's going to look to see if we have this button down. So if we hold down the mouse button, then every frame it will go into this if statement. And it will also check the time. since our last time that we shot. Okay, so we want to now, once we're in here, we're going to shoot. So we want to set next fire equal to time.time and add a short time to it. So that's going to be our bullet weight. And also, we actually have to create the bullet that's going to shoot. We're going to declare a variable here. I'll call it clone. And we're going to set it equal to instantiate an object. So this is going to be projectile 1 up here, which we've declared as a game object. Instantiate projectile 1. Now we have to say where it is, and we want it to be at the same position as our ship, but just a little bit ahead so that the bullet doesn't collide. So that's transform.position, and the transform here is the ship because we've attached the script to it. And to shift the position just a little bit forward, that's in the Y direction. So I'm going to add a vector 3, and the X, Y, Z components are going to be, the X and Z will be 0, and the Y, I know my cube is size 1, so the capsule probably needs to be a little bit around 1, maybe a little bit more. So let's put 1.0, and we'll see where that is, where it starts. And then we have to do the rotation. So this is back to the instantiate here. So we have instantiate projectile 1. This is the position. And now we're going to go the rotation. Okay. Save. Now I'm going to go into my bullet script. And we want it to update so that every frame it moves forward in the Y direction. So because this script is attached to the bullet, we're going to say transform.translate, and then we want X, Y, and Z here. And remember, we have the bullet speed over in the ship script, so I access that. So there's the 0. Now here's Y, the name of the script, ship, dot, and then the variable name, which I call bullet speed. And we want to multiply this by a time since the last frame updated, and that is time.delta time. And then the Z is going to be 0. Okay, so if I have all that in place, then we should be able to go back into Unity and play. Okay, so I'm going to push my mouse button, and it fires a big old fatty bullet. Okay, so now I'm holding it down, and it's going to repeat fire. I definitely need to make that thing smaller. So we're going to go into the prefab, and I'm going to drag this into the world here, my prefab bullet 1, and I'm going to shrink its scale so I can see about what number I want it to be. So there's X, there's Y, something like that maybe a little smaller. It's hard to see with my collider on there too. Okay, I'll make this a little bit smaller. Let's try 0.3, 0.3, and see how this looks here. So it's hard to see in this view. Oh, sorry. I need to do that to get rid of that bullet there. I need to do it to this prefab. Okay, now let's go play. Okay, a little smaller than I want, and the auto fire isn't very fast, so depending on how many enemies are on the screen, we'll want to change that. Things are taking shape now, and let's take a look over here in the hierarchy. We have a growing list of bullets, and these are the clones that I have instantiated with every shot, and we don't want them to last for or live longer than they are on the screen. So what we're going to do is in the update in the bullet script, we're going to see if it's in the camera view. If it is, we want it to live. If it's out of the camera view, then we want to get rid of the object. So we do that by an if statement, if, and using the renderer.isVisible function, and that means that it is in the screen, and to do a not, we do an exclamation point. So renderer.isVisible, so if it's not visible, then it's out of the camera and we want to get rid of it. So we will use the command destroy game object, and remember this is only if it passes this if statement. So let's save, go back to Unity, play. And let's watch this hierarchy list over here. So when I shoot a bullet, there's a clone and it disappears. So I'm going to hold down my firing button. I'm going to have a few bullets on the screen at a time. And when they go off the screen, they